Hello everybody, I'm really excited to make this video. I'm getting back to the traditional format because the other way just takes forever. Now this video, very exciting. We're going to look at Merlin. We're going to look at why he was trapped by time, how time crystals prove Merlin's burial place, and also who was really supposed to be buried in the Great Pyramid. The whole story relates to the Great Pyramid. It's an amazing story. Let's get on with it. Now this here is Merlin's burial place. It's called Marlborough Mount in Marlborough or Merlin Borough, or I suppose you could say Merlin Bury, Merlin's burial place. You'll note there's a church next to it, proving that this was a pagan monument, but this may not have been there in early times. This is a school. There is a girls' school around it, and it's really interesting. I mean, it actually surrounds the mount, which shows that he's trapped by the female spirit. And according to legend, it was a female spirit who actually trapped him in this mount. And we're going to see how that relates to the Great Pyramid. It's just an amazing story. And of course, Merlin was trapped by Nimue. And basically what happened was, she said to him, I want to learn all your magic. Just teach me all your magic. And he said, oh, yeah, very well, very well. And eventually she locked him underground, or in some kind of a pyramid. How by her subtle working she made Merlin go under the stone. So let her wit of the marvels there, and she wrought so there for him that he came never out for all the craft he could do. Well, presumably because he was dead, but the story doesn't get into that. The story also doesn't mention she probably would have been in there with him. So much as, and we're going to prove that by looking at the Great Pyramid to see who should have been buried in the Great Pyramid, what it was structured for. And of course this is the old town, and it seems that there's a church there, but this was the estate of a lord of Marlborough, and this was a pleasure gardens, ancient ruins, a little gazebo on top. And that's who was buried in the Great Pyramid. I think Khnum, basically Khnum, an ancient king or an ancient god or someone who later on was interpreted as someone with ram's horns. We'll get to that in a moment. And this is another picture of Merlin and Nimue, the spirit who trapped him. Over here, do you see over here? That's where it is. And the school surrounds it, so he's still being trapped by the female spirit. Now, a time crystal is defined by physicists as a pattern which repeats in time. It repeats in time, and that's its shape. So it has a regular shape, almost like a symmetrical, regular shape, and you can plot that time around an object. So this proves the ancient legend, the fact that they later built a girls' school around him because they couldn't help. It's sort of arguing almost that fate doesn't really exist because we're being buffeted around by the shapes of time crystals, which is weird. Weird. And again, Khnum. Now let's look at Khnum. Khnum was a god of pouring water. He was married to a consort, a god of pouring water. He was also a masked god, and the gods with masks, basically, here they are cloning man in some primordial time, maybe it was 60,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, and they are basically ancient giants, and they're remembered as wearing masks. So what's going on there? And the masks, what does that even mean? Is that a biohazard suit that's been remembered as something else? And the biohazard suit made them look weird, made them look like, so they thought, oh, they must have been animals. And of course, made on the potter's wheel, I argue that you don't make a statue on a wheel, you make a pot on a wheel. So what's happening is that's actually a centrifuge. And of course, this is what's remembered as the scientific apparatus and all this stuff, but it's been converted into religious format by people who just couldn't really remember what was going on. And here it is. Here it is. I mean, if this doesn't prove it, nothing does. There is someone with a consort. So this would be Merlin, Nimue, and there's another chamber at the bottom, which could have been, I suppose, the daughter. So in this case, it's Khnum. So this is Khnum's symbolic or real burial place. The burial is ancient god king. And then the queen's chamber, they thought it was a queen's chamber because of the shape of the roof, I suppose, although If that was extended upwards, this would have the same roof. But anyway, if that is the queen's chamber, obviously this is built for a god and goddess, and no one's actually saying this, which I find it is bizarre. It's totally bizarre. It's obviously built for a god and a goddess. It obviously is. There's no way it isn't. And they had one daughter called Ankuet. And maybe that's what the lower chamber is for. Sort of like the kid's bedroom. So it's obvious this is for a trinity, for a triad. And they even have a name. They're called the Elephantine Triad. We'll get to that in a moment. And do you notice the story of Merlin is so similar to the story of Loki? Loki is trapped underground. And that's his wife. And that's the snake dripping acid. But snakes don't drip acid. So what's actually going on is... The story is he's a fallen angel. How has he fallen? Well, he's fallen with his spacecraft or whatever. He's trapped under the rubble. And a hose is leaking some kind of... it's like high pressure or something. It's fluid, it's liquid, and it's dripping on him. And that's the ancient story, and they've converted it into this. And this is the triad I was mentioning, the Elephantine Triad from the city of Elephantine. So this is Khnum. And here you have Khnum's wife, Satet, who is possibly originally buried in the Queen's Chamber of the Great Pyramid. And here is Ankuet, the daughter, possibly buried in the underground chamber. So there are 3 chambers for this triad. It's amazing. This is the English version of that mount. It's the English version of the pyramid. It is basically a pyramid. It's the same religion as what's going on in Egypt. The legend proves it. So this was a worldwide religion. This is an English pyramid. And of course Marvin, his name was Marvin, not Merlin. And his wife's name, Nimue. Nimue, that sounds more Egyptian than anything I've ever heard. Right? Nimue. That's totally Egyptian. They use W as a vowel. And of course that's how it used to look. And well, I hope you enjoyed that video, guys. That was something different. And I'm going to get back into making this sort of video because it's a lot faster, isn't it? Okay, guys, thanks very much. Sub if you enjoyed, thumbs up, and I'll catch you very soon. Bye-bye.